Hello and welcome to the Spiritual Solopreneur Podcast. Today, my guest is Renee Michaud. Renee is a money, energy, and abundance coach and speaker. She specializes in empowering smart, successful women to break free from the cycle of self-sabotage and unlock success, freedom, and happiness that they desire. After struggling herself for years, Renee discovered the energetic keys to true freedom. Now she helps other women go from overworked and undervalued to a business and life of prosperity, ease, and abundance. Welcome, Renee.
Thanks, Bev. So great to be here with you. What an
Nice to
honor.
nice to have you. Thank you. Well, I want to start with a life of prosperity, ease, and abundance because that sounds so lovely and it's what everyone wants, and yet many feel that we don't have it for some reason.
Mm.
And why not? Why shouldn't we? Is there any reason why everyone shouldn't have a life of prosperity, ease, and abundance?
No, I mean, if that's what they want, there's no reason at all that everybody couldn't have that thing. And I really think that that's actually a birthright to have the ease. And we get to define what that is for us, right? So it's going to be different for everybody. Like, what is prosperity? What is ease, joy, right? Abundance for ourselves. And And because we live in a really abundant world, right? It looks like there's limitations, but that's just a construct of the mind, right? That we create that then proves itself to us over and over and over again. Yeah, so it's a great question because many of us, it looks like to many of us that that is actually for a very select, very few, that lucky people that get there, right? And it's often what we're taught, the them, right? Oh, and if you get there, and maybe you were doing something wrong to get there, and all of the baggage that comes around, with having prosperity, having more ease, more joy, because really we come from a paradigm of work harder, and struggle is virtuous, and just your fair share, and all of the other kinds of belief systems, programs, paradigms that is actually what we live into, what we're handed down, what we inherit, all of that stuff. And so it really just is a program,
Yeah.
really.
And
Yeah,
that's you mentioned baggage. I mean,
yeah,
that's the baggage, right?
yeah.
So how did you get into this? Did you find your own baggage?
Oh
Figuring.
yeah. Yeah. Good struggler, by the way. Like I have, I grew up struggling. I did not come from an affluent family by any means. I grew up with hand-me-downs. I've been working out of the home since I'm 9, like, to earn money to pay for school supplies and other such things, right? And at that age, it was before school, after school, stuff like that. And I learned, that things were hard to come by, and they didn't really come easily for people like us. And some of those belief systems, that I inherited, really, that I was conditioned to believe, really actually played out in my life, later on in sort of magnified ways, right? Like, didn't matter what I was doing, things always seemed to be working against me. And I've met many people that have had very similar experiences in their life. They might have had maybe ease with one other thing, but, over here in relationships, let's say that it was constant drama and constantly things going on. And, I can remember actually multiple decades later, like I grew up and in my 20s, I'm like, what is it about that everywhere I go, the same type of people show up in my life, different names, different faces, same experiences.
There's a pattern here.
There's a pattern. And I thought, and I remember dawning on me, like, what is the common denominator? And it's like, well, it's me. Now, the belief system, it was like, well, I must be the cause of it all, right? But I asked a higher question at one point in my life when it happened once again. And I was like, all right, like, why is this happening to me? And what is it that is, creating that, right? So asked a higher question, a better question, not like why poor me, but rather, why is that happening out of a place of more curiosity for myself. That question in and of itself, it was really it was like a door opener, Bev. And I met some people. I got invited to this workshop that, it was a series of events that then unfolded that then were helping me answer that question that I had asked, that higher level question of, well, why is this happening? Like, what is going on? And I had this moment that was the most impactful moment in my life. And it was where one of the facilitators said, you're not a victim in your own life. And I was like, well, what does that mean? Of course I am. All this stuff is being done to me.
Exactly.
Right? Like all this stuff is happening to me. How am I supposed to change that? And I asked, like, well, what does that mean? Because I felt it very shaming and blaming, like, you're not a victim, so, snap out of it. But that was the
Right.
way I interpreted it at the
Right.
beginning, from a place of feeling like I had zero control in the situation. I just had to put up with these misbehaving people, with these situations that kept showing up in my life, that people taking advantage of me, all
Right.
kinds of stuff going on. And when, they were explaining, well, you actually have agency over how you choose to react. And then I was like, well, say more about that. And then I can remember going home that evening. It was a weekend workshop years ago. And I went home. I couldn't sleep because I thought to myself, that was the best piece of news I'd ever learned. Why was I not told this information? Right. Like, because I always thought I got to try harder, work harder. I must be really undeserving and unworthy and crappy and crummy and broken and, like, hateful, because I really had over the years developed a really poor sense of my own self over the years because of all of the things that were happening to me, because I took the blame and I thought it was my fault, you know and that piece of information was really the big key to shining this consciousness on what was really happening, and the fact that actually, if I was in control, I thought that was the best piece of good news, because it meant I could change it. It meant that there actually was a way out of all of this stuff, and it was within my control. And I thought that was the most empowering piece of information I ever learned in my life. I never taught that in school. I wasn't taught it growing up. I was taught, you can, work hard and achieve something, but it takes hard work and you're lucky if you get, that kind of, right, paradigm.
Yeah.
So that was the piece that just cracked me open, in the sense of I could not stop learning. Okay, well, how do I do that? Because, I've got all this stuff going on that behind me, right? That I was dragging from years behind, and just keep making it part of my experience every day. And I was like, I'm really tired of it. I'm tired of bonking my head on the same brick wall and having the same experience and working really hard and being a good person, and still, not having the level of ease that I wanted in my life. It was really, just I was dealt a lot of difficult cards because of unknowingly and unwittingly, believing a set of thoughts that were playing in the background. Somebody else had put them there. They
Exactly.
weren't mine originally. And
Exactly.
they were just like, it was like a record player happening in the back of my mind on constant loop. And I was going, oh yeah, you're worthless and you're not good enough, and that'll never happen for you. It's okay for them. And so that's how I got into it, because I just was, I wanted something more for myself, because I was really tired of changing location, thinking that was the solution.
Right.
And inevitably, the first, couple little bit, oh, this is nice, it's new people, new everything. The inevitably, Bev, I kid you not, the exact same kind of emotions, feelings, situations showed up again in my life. And it was just, I just felt this deep level of despair, like, what is going on?
Right. So you came to understand this baggage as blocks, in fact.
Yeah, so I talk about it in blocks because it's kind of easy to picture, right? But it's really internal resistance, and it gets wired. It's not just mindset. A lot of people think it's, well, just change your mind and
Right.
things will change. That is an element of it, but mindset, I look at it as it's a bit of an outcome of our nervous system wiring that gets developed as we are growing up. So we inherit and we get conditioned. We're very, programmable. Human beings are very
Especially when we're very young.
0 to 7, very open. Our brains don't even we don't have the full conscious mind on board. We're just this open, if you look at your mind, it's going to be like a bowl, right? And it's like you're like a sponge. That's how come kids can absorb. We literally say, wow, they're just like a sponge. They just
Right.
absorb things because they don't have the conscious mind that has the differentiate. Is that true? Is that not true? Like we start to discern, whether or not something is true for us or not. Instead, we're just a sponge saying, oh, and we believe everything that is told to us, that is shown to us in action,
Yeah.
right? And it is felt by us, right? Like, because I saw things and I reacted, and I'm thinking, I remember I'm what you would term a highly sensitive person, in the sense of I pick up on uh other people's emotions and vibrations and stuff very, very easily. There's a lot of us out there. We're just like,
Yeah.
and you don't realize at a young age that a lot of that stuff is not your own. I remember walking into a room and I could tell that people were not happy. And I thought it was because I had entered the room,
Of course.
right?
Of course.
As a little kid, your whole life is about you. So I walked in there and I was like, I must be bad. Like, and it was how I reasoned it, right? And now this belief gets wired into not just my thinking, okay, but into my nervous system, because it didn't feel good. My nervous system, which is my survival system too, right? It's hooked into our survival, our fight and flight. A lot of us know that term, fight or flight. It's the
Sure.
sympathetic nervous system. And as we're growing up, our nervous system is also developing in stages. And so as we're learning stuff, we are it's going literally into our body. So these beliefs, blocks that become blocks, to the things, right, that are stopping us. They're wired into our nervous system at a young age, and so it's a neurobiology problem. It's a mind body problem, and it's the root of the cause is really in the nervous system of the body, right?
Hmm.
So we'll have an unconscious thought, we'll have an emotion, a corresponding emotion to that, and then we will literally want to take an action. That action might be freeze, it might be do something, it might be go eat. It's very common.
Yeah.
It might be, right, quickly,
How did you know?
go check your phone, like do something, a distraction, because
Distraction.
it's so uncomfortable, right? And the thing about us as programmable beings is that our brain, you know, uh, sets up neural pathways. So we learn this thing, we might learn it once, and it's like we're kind of like, it's kind of exhausting to learn things. But after a while, your brain starts to create neural pathways, and before you know it, you got autopilot programs going on, and you can
Yeah.
do things without even realizing them anymore. First time you're taking steps, it's really difficult. After a while, you're doing it on your own because your brain goes, okay, I know how to do this, and it's instructing you. Same thing with beliefs. It's fascinating, right? And so you're like, uh-oh, well, this is now wired into me. Great. Now what? So
Exactly.
it's a mind body problem. And so it needs to be approached with mind body tools, right? And so that we can bring the unconscious into the conscious, look at it. Oh, I see what's driving that. Okay. And now we can use, tools and processes and that to release it from the nervous system, so that now you're unhooking the reaction from the thought, so that the thought's no longer controlling how you feel, right? And that it's also then you're actually to, the behavior that's connected to that. Usually there's going to be a behavior of some kind, right? Procrastination's a big one. Sabotage
Sure.
behaviors that, just get in the way, which is fall
And
in the
it's like
category
it's unconscious. You don't even
totally, totally unconscious. And
yeah.
but it's happening at lightning speed, like
Mhm.
nanosecond speed, like so fast that you don't realize it. You're like, I said I wasn't going to eat those cookies, and before you know it, you're dusting crumbs off your phone, and you've polished the bag off, right? And you're like, I don't get it. I just swore I would never touch those again. And what happened? I went unconscious, right? Almost like someone else took over, and it was your subconscious mind. And I'll say, like, I remember when that happened to me, and I was like, it's like it's like there's an alien controlling me. Like, I don't understand what's going on, right? Because I said one thing and now I'm doing the exact opposite.
Exactly. And
And that's really frustrating. Sorry to cut you off.
no, no, I was just gonna say that it sounds like a tough thing to combat. I mean, what kind of tools are we talking about here?
So on your own, it can be because again, your blind spots are called blind spots for a reason. They're really, your brain is hiding this stuff from you on purpose, not to be devious at all.
Yeah.
It has a positive intent. Okay. Because this stuff makes your nervous system say, wow, there's danger, I'm fearful, I'm right. It's uncomfortable. The positive intent is usually to keep you safe. It's
From what sees as the danger.
because what it registers as, oh, there's danger here. So it wants to keep you safe, right? And so, it blocks this stuff out. That's what happens with trauma. We forget a lot of the stuff that might have happened to us, right? But the
Mhm.
body doesn't. The body doesn't forget. The nervous system does not forget,
Yeah.
right? And so with help, you can uncover, and you don't even have to get to the exact reason, which is really nice because you're like, how am I going to deal with all the stuff? Really, you just have to, with help, help to transform that. You uncover it, you clear it, right, and then you start to you give it new information. Okay. New You update the internal program just like software in a computer, just like on your phone when you're updating your apps and they're getting brand new operating instructions, a new set of, bug fixes, right? It's the same kind of thing that we do in our brain, right? With tools that, for example, I use proven techniques. They're not crazy woo woo things, that how the brain works and the body works, right? So I use a combination of things depending on what's presenting, but I will draw on things like emotional freedom technique or tapping. A lot of people know that. Proven studies now are showing, what 30 years they've known, it really addresses, the amygdala part of the brain that registers the fear and all of that, right? And it sends calming signals to the nervous system. So when you're addressing a problem, a specific problem, you're releasing and unhooking the emotional, baggage, if you will, that's attached to that and wired into your body's automatic program, right?
So with the tapping, so is it basically a distraction for your
No,
brain?
no, it's actually proven it. Studies now have shown actually in, equipment and everything, that amygdala calming down. So what it's doing is tapping into the energy meridians in your body. There's a
Uh,
different system in your body that is your meridian system, similar to what acupuncturists use and acupressure. And there's sort of a different. Um, it's mapped out on your body. There's a whole very very intricate body system, and what we're doing is literally de desensitizing events, emotions, thoughts from the conditioned programming that they've received before, so that now you can have more ease and more peace around that. You no longer feel triggered. That's a big word, like to be triggered. Oh my God,
yeah.
like somebody said that and I felt like I flushed and I felt shame, or I felt like even if you think about something scary, people's heart rate, increases, right? We have mind body connections to everything. So when we are using tapping as an example as one of the tools, if I'm using tapping, what's happening is I'm literally rewiring my nervous system with respect to the, what we're working on specific. It's really good to get really specific because general stuff works generally, but specifics is when we really get the magic happening, is because you have a very specific set of, programming, conditioning, right? Depending
Yeah.
on your family upbringing, what your conditioning your parents had that was handed down. The other thing, Bev, is, in your DNA, you would have got it from your ancestors as well, whether they were had to survive, and all of that stuff actually gets imprinted and handed down, you know, and then there's uh, the conditioning you get at school, in your community, socially, religiously, depending on what gender you are. Like, so there's a lot of conditioning that we receive, right? And good, bad, otherwise, it's not judging. We're not saying people ruined us. They're just doing their best
Yeah,
and they didn't know
exactly.
any better. And this is how we got here, right? As women, for example, we have a very unique set of conditioning that we receive from society as well, whether or not it's okay to receive. And this plays out. So, I deal with money and energy and abundance. Why? Because it has to do very specifically with our deserving and our worthiness and our receiving ability, right? But it plays out in our money big time. And I talk about money because money is really the tangible, physical representation of a value exchange in our society, right?
Yeah, it's the only one.
And exactly, right? Yes, there's, you know, you can exchange things and stuff like that, but
Yeah,
money is really the currency, right? The thing that we use to exchange. And when we have these, if we've got limiting beliefs that are creating a mindset and particular conditioning around us that is preventing us from going for our dreams, from realizing, what we want in our life, from showing up in the way that, that like is that fully empowered person that we are meant to be. When we talked about having a life of more ease, prosperity, and abundance, if we are thinking like that isn't for me, even if we've got really big dreams, right? Or we think I would really like to do that, to be a coach, to be an entrepreneur, to be in my job, to go, to do something more, to have more, fulfillment, whatever that is. If we have beliefs that are blocking our ability to receive the very thing that we want, then it robs us of it costs us so much. It robs us of our joy, right? Our ability to earn, right? The way that we would like to earn, whatever that is for you. It's personal. It doesn't have to be, crazy amounts, and it can be crazy amounts, whatever you want it to be. But it robs us of our joy, our ability to become the person that we were actually designed to be originally, right?
yeah,
Before we had all this stuff layered upon us, like little babies, we're just like, yay, everything is amazing, and then we
exactly.
get like everything gets shut down a lot of the time. So, that is a very um tangible thing we can say, that it shows up there. Even people who have a lot of money, by the way, this isn't exclusive to, if you're struggling with money. It's just like what happens is it puts an invisible ceiling on us of saying, well, you can only go so far. And
Yeah,
oh, I reached this far. Well, that's it, and people will find themselves doing all this work, and at the end of the day they're only earning or creating the same level of things, like similar to my experience of recreating the same thing over and over again and never being able to kind of get out of that,
the pattern just keeps repeating itself.
it does. And we prove what we believe. Literally, we prove what we will believe. We attract the same kind of things into our life because that is the level that we are the energy that we're putting out just it just magnifies it back to us in
Yeah,
ways from all over the place. Even in
ex-
thoughts and ideas that we have, they only go so far, you know.
exactly. Is it useful to think of ourselves as having a relationship with
Yeah,
abundance or
yeah,
a relationship with money?
very much so. So I like to look at it like that actually myself and say like, well, if this, because it is a relationship, you
Yeah,
know, and that might turn people off, but it is a relationship. Everything we have, like life is relationships, really. It's relationships with people, but also the relationship, even if you work in a business, in a job, you have a relationship with your employer. You have a relationship with the place that you go to work and what you do and everything like that. So when we look at money as a relationship, it's a really good way to shine light on what's happening between you and your money,
yeah,
right? For me, for example, from, the story that I was saying earlier on, I resented money.
yeah.
I totally resented it, Bev, because why? Well, because it had all the control and it was hard to come by, but we needed it. And if you didn't have a lot, you didn't get to do a lot, right? And you didn't get to, it was always, I can remember, Mom, could we do this? Or, no, we have no, you know,
Can't
don't
afford it.
ask for more. We can't afford it. How dare you ask for anything? And it was that kind of feeling growing up, like I'm not allowed. And when I'm not allowed, why would I go for something in my life as an adult? Because of that very old memory that's now into the subconscious mind, playing in the background on the
Yep,
record player, going like, you're not allowed to have that. So the relationship piece is really important, and it's a really good exercise to start to look at, like, if money was a friend and an ally, if money was that energy that wanted to show up for me in my life, what would it say about me right now? Would
yeah,
it say, like,
exactly.
right, what would it say if you could journal about it even, and just say like, wow, what would money say about me? Would money say like, well, she's not very welcoming, like a friend comes to the door, sorry, busy, close the door, like, I really wanted you to
Exactly.
come over, but I don't like it when you're here, you scare me, you make me nervous, you make me fearful, you make me disgusted because you're the root of all evil and all that baggage that comes with money, which is a lie. It's not the root. It's the greed and the sin and all of that got layered onto the entity called money, right?
Exactly. Well,
But that's
I can give you I can give you another example because
yes, please.
you and I talked
Yeah,
and we did some tapping for me,
yeah,
and I discovered after that I was actually logging into my bank account to pay some bills. And of course, so whenever I do that, the idea of money comes into my head because I'm
yeah,
logging into the bank account. And I realized that that thought about money was that money doesn't get me.
yeah.
Money doesn't understand me. It
Mhm,
provides for me,
mhm.
no question, but I don't think it's providing for me the way I really want to be provided for. And I don't know what that is, by the way, but
Yeah,
I
but
just had this that's what it was saying
yeah,
that I was saying about it. And so no wonder, you know, it's
yeah, yeah. It doesn't get me, which is a super great insight, right? And you're like, well, if I wanted money, to show up, now you can start to explore, well, how do I want to be in relationship with money, right?
yeah,
And from so oftentimes we'll log into our bank and we will emotionally just notice what you feel when you log in. If it's like a tightness or it's like a worry, or you're like, okay, well, there's not quite enough, whatever the feeling is, or you might be grateful for what's there, right? But it's bringing money back into the place of like an ally for you,
exactly.
not an adversary, or not somebody doesn't get you, or doesn't want to show up for you, because money is really like a magnifier, and money allows you to be more and do more of who you truly are in essence. It doesn't, so if you're a really generous person, and you're making more money, you have more ability to be generous. Talk with a lot of, healing entrepreneurs and people in the healing arts and that I don't do it for the money. I know, but the fact of the matter is you need money to keep doing it.
Exactly.
So at some point you're like, I have to get into a relationship where I'm appreciating the money and because I'm appreciating my value of what I'm offering. And this is an exchange of energy that's going on. And the money shows up in the form of thank you notes, right? Like I like to put it saying like, if money was, a stream coming into your life and saying like, hey, I'm showing up, some of it I'm accumulating, some of it's hanging out, some of it I'm tithing and giving back, some of it I'm actually reinvesting in myself so I can help people to a greater degree because that's my passion, or your passion is, helping people, set their businesses up, right, with the right tools and all that kind of stuff. Whatever the thing is that you want to be doing, the extension of yourself, if you don't have money, that tool that we use, the universal trading tool that we use, in good relationship, it's not going to want to show up for you, period.
Exactly.
And until
Exactly.
you understood that, so I would say, start putting cash money in your wallet. Just leave it in there, appreciate it, look at it. Thank money for showing up for you to be able to pay your bills. Thank you so much for paying your bill. I'm so grateful that you show up for me in that way and you support me in that way so that I get to do the things that I want to do in my life, right? And stop making money a dirty subject, because as a magnifier, yes, there are greedy people in the world. Yes, there are people that don't share, right? And when they get more money, it might show up as more greed. But for people that are wanting to do good things, if they're inviting more money into their life and more with more ease, not by working harder, because most people, Bev, they think, oh my God, I took so much work and so much hard work to get to this point. I can't imagine if I want to get to the next level of money, how much extra, like double the work, like what's going to
Yeah.
happen, right? But instead, you're like, I'm actually offering more value, and I've been undervaluing what I offer because of some of this, the belief systems, the mindset, that the neurobiology wiring that says I'm not allowed to ask for more. It's greedy. What will people think? Can't possibly do that. It's not possible. I'm not deserving it. Whatever the stuff is, gets in the way and acts like blocks, resistance, creating barriers to the very things that you are meant to be doing. And I'm gonna offer this: your dreams are not for no reason. They're not just whatevers, right? Like they're actually seeds planted in you on purpose, that give you the desire to say, these are the ways that I am meant to be expressing, my gifts to the world, right?
Yeah.
As a person, as a partner in relationship, as, a parent if you're one, or, in all the ways that you show up, not just in business, but in life, right? Because business is really what? An extension of who you are. It's really an extension of who you
True.
are, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at this stuff from a non-judgmental place, we want to look at it from a compassionate place for ourselves, right? It's not like I haven't been misbehaving or doing it wrong, and it's never too late. People I worked with in their 80s, by the way, like it's never too late to uncover and clear this stuff so that you can have a fuller, more freedom for, to be who you want to be, right? And go for your dreams to the level that you want to go for, and stop holding yourself back unintentionally because of fears, which is natural,
Yeah.
right? And or belief systems that are super outdated. We're often, we're born in the whatever we're born in, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, whatever. We're in 2024 working with software that was created back then. Think about that. If you
Yeah.
ran that software on your computer today, would it work?
This software.
The software that's up here, would it work? No, it's outdated,
Yeah.
right? And I think the best, as I was saying about that moment where I learned something, like I'm like, hold on. The best thing is that none of this stuff's permanent, so don't despair. It's not like it's going to take years. That's why using specific mind body tools where we get in and we can literally start giving new instructions to your brain, and then through certain, easy practices, fun things, we just reinforce it so that the groove that you're on is the intentional one you want to be on, not the default one that you were given.
Right. And the universe will respond with the opportunities to go either which way, whichever way you have.
For being a free will, right? And so
Yeah.
you get but it will respond the more you focus on what you want, and you get your whole self involved in it, meaning you get your emotions like, wow, that would feel really good. And then you're catching yourself if you're saying, yeah, but I'm not allowed, or it's not possible for me. That's pipe dream or whatever. Just cancel that. I love going cancel, delete,
Cancel, cancel. Yeah.
cancel.
Yep.
I'll just say, no, actually, I'm in charge here of what I'm feeding this, right? Before I wasn't. I was young, it was given to me, and that's okay. I'm now conscious and becoming aware and saying, well, what do I want to do? What do I want to have for myself? And
Sounds like the
and
first step is awareness, is
yes,
just be
definitely number one. Yeah,
notice,
yeah,
understand what,
yeah,
try and listen for these things that are floating
yeah,
through.
yeah. Bev, becoming aware is really quite magical because you start to actually take a pause sometimes because we talked about we're not like it's happening so fast that you don't even realize that you had that unconscious thought that then created your racing heart or whatever that
Yeah.
made you go get the bag of cookies. Well, when you start becoming aware and doing a few practices, what ends up happening is you have a little bit of a gap between the thought and the reaction. And
Yes.
that's where the magic starts to happen. You're like, oh my God, like
You don't get the triggering as much.
exactly. And now you have choice in that space. You can start to have choice like, oh, I see that happening. And maybe you could just go with it and go, okay, I'm going to go eat the cookies.
Yeah. I can't help it now.
Yeah, I'm on the road, but I recognize what's happened. Now I'm the observer watching it
Yeah.
happening, right? And you're like, interesting. And when you start to listen to your self-talk, it's usually quite negative, and
Hmm.
it's usually quite like demeaning and stuff. With people, it's shocking what happens. You're like, oh my God, like I've been saying all these terrible things to myself.
Yeah.
And and what ends up happening is you can now, with that awareness, take more conscious actions, right? And then things start to happen, with, again, it does take help. There's a lot we can do on our own, but I have often found like to actually make lasting transformation, you have to have help in order to get to see what's behind all that stuff. What's the iceberg? What is underneath the iceberg piece that's driving some of that stuff? Sometimes it's uh, you know, traumas we've had, big T's and little T traumas in our life of, many, many different kinds.
Hmm.
Doesn't have to be like massive things. It can be just things we registered as like not safe.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, Renee, that I love that last thing you said as a nice message for everyone, just to
Mm.
um, notice what's happening, and then you can start for the next time. And don't beat yourself up.
That's a big key is to, you have to come at it in terms of relationship, number one, relationship, like saying like, well, what if I befriended myself so that I allow myself to be a receiver of the very things that I want? Because other people are missing out by you not showing up,
Mhm.
as your full capacity, the way that you are meant to be,
Yep.
right? And so if you said, well, not to beat yourself up, to say like, I'm not going to come at it from, I'm just coming at it from curiosity because I want something better for myself. Because then as that person that's happier, has more ease, has more ability to say yes to things, more generosity, you impact the ripple effect. It's it just goes on and on and on because you positively impact the people that are close around you, your clients, your family, your community, and they then have a good experience and they then are better with their like, and so it's just like this exponential ripple, so you're
Exactly.
having this global impact even when you're dealing with a single person, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
I just find
it's
that so
amazing, really, when you think about it,
amazing,
the
and it's
potential.
yeah, yeah,
Awesome. Well,
yeah,
for those that are looking for a little help, and
yeah.
as you said, there's only so much you can probably do on your own. You can certainly get started, but where can people get hold of you and get some help from you?
Yeah, thank you so much. I the best way to get a hold of me is I really like to have a one-on-one conversation with people to see, what they're looking for and stuff like that. And if we're a good fit, right? It's really, what are they looking for in that. So I offer a charge your worth, a session. It's a free session where we can have a chat because I really am a people person. I really like to meet with people that way. So I'm
Yeah,
personable and it's not no obligation thing. It's just having a conversation together and a connection. And email. I have email that I've shared with you. I guess you can post that somewhere or
sure.
something, or you want me to say it?
I'll just put it in the description box.
No. Yeah. Okay.
Will be good. Yeah.
So
Awesome.
right now, that's the best way. I
Okay.
like. I work with referrals and things like that, and so I'm just I love to work with people who are ready to have an up-leveled experience for themselves and get out of their own way. And
Yeah, have a bit of a breakthrough.
I'm really passionate about it, and and it's yeah, it's
Well,
just a
your
lot of fun.
passion comes through, and we
Yeah,
really
I just
appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you.
So thanks so much for being here, Renee. Really appreciated it. And thank you for our session. It was quite eye-opening, and
You're
I
welcome.
highly recommend everyone get in touch with Renee.
Thank you so much.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, I will talk to you again soon, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.